let's start a new topic. Pesach. Yeah, why not? Why not? Dayenu. Let's start Pesach. It's not the end of the class yet, just Dayenu. All right, let's start Pesach. Now, how many days between Purim and Pesach? How many days between Purim and Pesach? What? Shloshim yom lifnei Chag. 30 days. We basically attach Purim to Pesach. That's why this year, which is a Shana Mu'uberet, a Shana, a year that is pregnant, right? It's a pregnant year because there are two Adars. Two Adars. Purim always falls on the second Adar because you need to have 30 days between. We go from Geula to Geula. We go from Purim in the second Adar to Pesach, okay? Which is in Nisan, okay? So that's the way we work it. And it's Shloshim, 30 days between Purim and Pesach. Okay, before we discuss Pesach at all, we need to talk about something that we speak about on these holidays, but we need to understand. And that is Zman, time. Zman is time. How does time work in Judaism? And that's going to have a lot of applicability, especially when it comes to Pesach. Well, first of all, we know that we want Pesach to appear at a certain time of the year. It must appear. And that's actually the reason that we have a Shana Mu'uberet, a pregnant year, to push Pesach later in the year. Because there is an 11-day or so discrepancy between the solar and lunar calendar. Solar means the sun, those are the seasons, and lunar means the moons. Which one do we do? Do we follow, in Judaism, do we follow the solar calendar or the lunar calendar? We follow the lunar, we're a bunch of loonies. We follow the lunar, the moon, right? The new month, right? The new month is determined by the moon. That's what begins the Chodesh. Write down all these words. That begins the Chodesh, the new moon. So we got a problem. Because when it comes to the solar calendar, there are going to be 11 more days than the lunar calendar. So what happens is, the holidays are going to travel every year, backwards by 11 days. Well, what's the problem with that? It's going to change where the holidays appear in the seasons. In the seasons. Do you understand? In other words, Islam, lahavdil, will only follow a lunar calendar. So Ramadan, right, their 30-day travels throughout the entire year. We do not allow that to happen. So we follow a lunar calendar, but we align with the solar. Why? Well, it's all learned out from Pesach, because Pesach must appear in springtime. And how do you say that in Hebrew? Chodesh Ha'aviv. Chodesh Ha'aviv. Right? In the springtime. But it's not going to fall in the springtime if you don't add an extra month, because when that happens, you don't keep pushing it forward, because it will keep going back by 11 days every year. Are you following? This is very important. That's why we have this extra month put in of Adar, which is the last month of the year, because the beginning month of the year is Nisan. The beginning month is Nisan. That's the first month of the year. Tishrei was the month that mankind was created in, but Nisan is the month that the Jewish people are created in. As a nation. What is Nisan called in the Torah? Month 1. That's it. These names actually appear in the Megillah for the first time. We see them when we were in Galut, in Bavel, these are Babylonian names, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz. In the Torah, it just says the first month. When it says the first month, you're talking about Nisan. It talks about the seventh month, you're talking about Tishrei. Tishrei is the seventh month, but that's when Rosh Hashanah is. Yeah. But it's the seventh month. From what? From Yetziat Mitzrayim. Because the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people while they were still in Mitzrayim was to create a calendar to follow and track the moon. HaChodesh Zeh Lachem. HaChodesh, this month, Hazeh, is going to be Lachem, for you. Are you following? So now, Nisan is the first month, and it only appears in the Torah as the first month. This word Nisan appears much later, as we said. Okay? So now we're going to keep Pesach in the spring. And that's going to impact the other holidays, because we know that Yom Kippur and Sukkot have to appear in between the summer and winter, what we call the fall. Right? It's got to be right on the cusp. It can't be too hot. It can't be too cold. It's got to be just right. Goldilocks. And therefore, Sukkot has to appear right between, just when people are coming. Because if it was in the summer, people are like, yeah, of course you're sitting in a cabana, right? Your sukkah. Makes sense. In the winter, Hashem will be like, well, Hashem doesn't give us mitzvot that are too uncomfortable. And therefore, Sukkot has to appear right in between the end of the summer and the beginning of the fall into the winter time. You got it? Same thing. So there's like a knock-on effect from Pesach all the way through. Are we good? Are we cool? Great. So how does time actually work? And why is that important? So there's a very famous expression you've all heard and probably said, and it is, B'yamim hahem, B'yamim hahem, B'zman hazeh. Right? In those days, at this time. What do those words mean? B'yamim hahem, B'zman hazeh. Those days, this time. We say these words a lot. What does those words even mean? No, literally, what do they mean? What days? What times?
Those days in what?
Okay. So, what it means is, B'yam means in those days, that means in history. Historically, we had to deal with Mordechai and Esther. We had to deal with Yetziat Mitzrayim. We had to deal with Hanukkah. So it happened in those days. 50 years back, 1,000 years back. But Zman Hazeh means at this Zman, at this time of the actual year, at this date, at this moment. The word Zman comes from the word Zimun. Zimun means to prepare. To prepare. I know that they'll say before Birchat Hamazon, let's make a zimun. It means let's prepare ourselves to pray together and thank God for this meal. The word zman means to prepare. Why would the word zman mean to prepare? Because Hashem prepared time from creation. When Hashem created the world, He created a physical world and a spiritual world, and He created something called time. Time did not exist before creation. Hashem exists outside of time.
So what does it mean to others?
So it means events happened in those days, 1,000 years ago, right? But it's happening at this time. That means at this date during the year. At this date in the year.
At this date in the year?
Again.
Those days after.
Purim. Purim happened B'yam Mahem, a couple of thousand years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But we celebrate it.
Now.
What does now mean?
Present.
Present what?
Day.
Time. On the 14th or 15th of Adar.
So at this time.
Means I am now celebrating, actually I'm not celebrating, I'm recreating the original time that it happened in. So the events happened a long time ago. But I'm concerned about that because I'm going to talk about those events. But you know what's really important? The time to do it. When do we discuss Pesach? At the same time in the year. This is the month and day it happened. Are you following?
So at this time we are celebrating.
Events that happened 1,000 years ago. But I'm not celebrating, I'm actually reliving. Let me add another word over here, just to really confuse you all. The Jewish holidays are called the Moed. You heard the expression, Moedim? Right, we say Moedim. What is a Moed? Yeah, what are you saying? So we usually translate the word Moed to mean a Jewish holiday, but that's not what it means. A Moed means a meeting place. Watch carefully, write this down. A Moed is a meeting place. What was the Ohel Moed? The tent of meeting. Who met in that tent? Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu. That was the Kodesh Kodashim. That's when Moshe Rabbeinu went into the Holy of Holies to hear HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's called the Ohel Moed. The word Moed means to meet. Why are Jewish holidays called meetings? Because we meet Hashem at various times of the year, at various holidays. So, let's go a little bit deeper over here. So, watch carefully. When we talk about this idea of B'yam Ha'hem B'Zman Hazeh, Moedim, Zman, what we're actually saying is the following. That time is not a line. It's not linear. Right? That's usually how we see time, as a timeline. In Judaism, we don't see it as a timeline. How do we see it? How do we see it? As a spiral. That's very good. As a spiral, like a corkscrew. Right? It goes like that. So as you go, that's year 1, that's year 2, that's year 3, 4, 5, etc. So that means, watch carefully. Something happened here. That's the B'yam Ha'hem. I am over here, but I'm B'zman Hazeh. That's where you are on the spiral. That's where you have to kind of like picture it in your mind's eye. That's where to teach it to your students. You don't go back in time. You go forward in time. Forward, time travels one way. But I can find the time where something happens, and I'm celebrating it at that time. That's the Zman. Eating matzah is not going to help you on the 10th of Nisan. It's not going to help you on the 15th of Iyar. It's got to be at the right time. What time is that? The time of the original event. What original event? That you're discussing on that particular holiday. For Purim, it's when they fasted and when they ate and celebrated in Shushan. And for Pesach, it's all about Yetzias Mitzrayim. So it's B'zman, B'yam Ha'hem, that's the event from the past. B'zman Hazeh is where you are in the spiral, because you revisit the same time. The time repeats itself. That's why the word Shana, write this down, the word Shana means year, but it also means to repeat, right? Like Lechem Mishnah. It's a repeated bread. It's 2. Do you understand? Guys, you got to get this down. Shana means year, but the word L'Shana means to repeat, because the year repeats itself. Can you see that? It comes back again and again. So we actually travel through time. We are time travelers. We travel through time. We get to various stops along the way. The first stop along the way is Nisan. That's stop number 1, Pesach. Then you keep going. And then you get to Lag BaOmer. And then Shavuot. And you get to various locations that are part of the fabric of time. And you grab stuff that you need along the way. You're on a train traveling through the year. That's where to look at. You get to various stations along the way. Are you following this? A very important idea, my dear friends. I hope so. Yeah.
I'm a little confused just because if we align Pesach with Aviv every single year, all the other holidays kind of change.
They don't. They sit exactly where they need to as well. They sit where they need to in the season. They don't change. We're just aligning the holiday in the right season. And seasons are not connected to the moon. They're connected to the sun, right? Fall, spring, winter. Some of those are solar holidays of times. So we follow the moon, but we have to keep in line with the solar as well. That's what we're doing. Where do we get that from? From Pesach. Why? Because on Pesach, we have to celebrate it in spring. By the way, why is that important? Why does Pesach, we didn't even ask this question. Why does Pesach need to appear in the springtime? Let it appear in winter. What do you care? Sukkot, I hear, you've got to be outdoors. But what's the big deal with Pesach? Why do we learn this out from Pesach? Why does Pesach have to appear in the springtime? Besides the fact that it happened in the springtime originally. But that's not enough to keep it in the springtime.
Did they bring a korban at that time?
That's not what does it. Because springtime, that was later on. Springtime is all about freedom. Freedom of the plants. Freedom of the fruit. It's all coming out, right? In the winter, it's all dead. Nothing's coming out of the ground. So springtime is freedom time. You know what goes free? Plants, the fruits coming out of the trees, all the crops coming out. You know what else goes free? The Jewish people, right? Springtime is the time when people start to go out. So Hashem did us a favor and released us in the springtime. Because in the winter it would have been horrible. In the summer we would have cooked. So Hashem did us a great favor and took us out in spring. So we're grateful to Hashem that He took us out in spring and not at a nasty time of the year. Right? When the weather is just right. And so it has to appear at that time because it's freedom time. Yeah.
So what exactly did Moed mean?
Moed means a meeting place. So it's a place, like a physical location, like the Ohel Moed. But the word Moed also means the Jewish holidays because we meet Hashem at various places. Yeah, that's how we do it. Where do we learn this out from? Well, we said already, right? When we left Egypt. But it goes back earlier than that. Who do we know was able to understand this idea at a much deeper level? And that was Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu, we know, was visited by 3 Malachim. What did he give them to eat? He gave them ugot. Ugot. He gave them ugot. Now, in modern Hebrew, it's cookies. But in Torah Hebrew, ugot actually means matzah, because it's round. Uga means round. The original matzot were round, not the square things you get in the box. They were round. That's ugot matzot. So he gave his guests matzot. And Rashi says over there, you know why Avraham gave his 3 guests that came to his table ugot matzot, matzah? Because it was Pesach. How can it be Pesach? We hadn't even gone into Egypt yet, let alone getting out of Egypt. So from here we learn something very important. You need to write this down. It goes like this. We don't celebrate Pesach because the Jewish people left Egypt. I'll say that again. We don't celebrate Pesach because the Jewish people left Egypt. The Jewish people left Egypt because it was Pesach. There's something in time called freedom time. In Hebrew, Zman Cherutenu. I'll write it down. Zman Cherutenu. That's how the Torah describes Pesach. The time of Cherut, freedom time. It's been freedom time since the beginning because Hashem created time. So part of that is freedom time. Well, how do I know? Because the Jewish people left in freedom time on Pesach in the Jewish year 2448. That's the year of the Exodus from Egypt. But we know that before we left, Avram Avinu was celebrating Pesach too, because he understood how time worked. How? I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But Avram Avinu was able somehow to know that this is the time of freedom, and the food you eat at that time is matzah.
So we don't celebrate Pesach because
We don't just celebrate Pesach because the Jewish people left Egypt. Actually, the Jewish people left Egypt because it was a time to leave. What was that? 15th of Nisan is freedom time, and always was. It's the other way around. That means Hashem created the world with various times set up in it, because remember Hashem created time. And what are those times of freedom? There's going to be other times too. There's going to be time of simcha, time of emunah, time of kapara. We're going to come to those later on. Each holiday brings with it. So when you get to that place, what do you get when you get to Pesach? Freedom. It's all about freedom. And that's why it's in the springtime, because springtime is freedom time. Are we clear? Okay, we'll pick this up next class in Mr. Hashem and continue the discussion and delve deeper into it.